So hello, everyone, and welcome to The Lead Seat. I am Dr. Marilyn Clark, and I am founder and president of Clark Consulting Group. Today, my guest is Dr. Valeria Stokes, and welcome, Valeria, and thanks for joining me. And before we get started, I'd like you, Valeria, to tell us a little bit about your background.
Of course, and thank you for involving me in the Leads podcast. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can say that I have been involved in my work since I was an undergraduate. And my undergraduate focus was in healthcare. And I started out as a baccalaureate prepared nurse. I worked in the hospital. I'm a frustrated ICU nurse. And because of that experience, I was recruited into nursing education. And with the nursing education, the terminal degree at that time was a master's in nursing. And my clinical specialty is maternal child nursing and specializing in education and administration. I did nursing education at the collegiate level. And upon a transfer to Chicago, I went into hospital management. And so I did that for a few years, decided that for me to continue in my work, it would have been moving toward a dean or department chair, which required a doctorate. And so that doctorate I decided to do and change my career. And I worked on my doctorate in adult continuing education with my specialty in human resource and organizational development on a foundation of globalization and diversity, equity, and inclusion. I received my education in the Midwest. Creighton University was where I got my baccalaureate. The University of Nebraska Medical Center is where I got my master's, and I got my doctorate at Northern Illinois University.
Thank you, Valeria. And you know what? Now that you say that, I came to know Valeria when I started at Northern, working on my doctorate as well. My chair, who was your chair as well, Valeria. Your dissertation was one of the first ones he wanted me to read. I don't know if I ever told you that.
No.
Yeah. Jean was like, I want you to read Valeria Stokes' dissertation because my vein of research was right along with your vein of research. And, I had a human resource background too. And so I don't know if I ever shared that with you, but
No, you didn't.
Yeah. He had recommended I want you to read her dissertation. So I've known you before I knew you. Okay. And that,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's just a little fun fact I wanted to throw out there.
Yes, yes.
Today, Valeria, I'd like to talk around, have a conversation around career path and talk about the challenges, some of the wins, some of the lessons, and taking all of that into consideration, how you develop your career path. So
Okay.
would you mind sharing with us today, your journey on that?
Certainly. People have asked me that before, and to be quite frank, I never planned it. And I think the reason it was never really planned, when I look at what I've done, I've always had people as the center of anything that I do.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in undergraduate, believe it or not, I wanted to major in history, English, and French. And my father said, what the hell are you going to do with that? And I went, oh, okay.
Okay.
And part of the baby boomer generation, women did not have as many opportunities as our daughters do now. And so the only options that I had happened to be with either nursing or education. And because there was healthcare in my family, I decided to, go into nursing and transferred to Creighton University School of Nursing.
Mhm.
And I grew up with a strong philosophy: whatever you start, do it well and do it to its max. And so, upon my achieving my degree, I knew that I wanted to do more than work in the hospital. And it just so happened that through a network contact, I was recruited to teach in a diploma program. And a common theme that goes through my career is networking. And the networking provided me an opportunity and an exposure to a different aspect of my basic education that I gravitated to a master's degree. And the emphasis on my master's degree was still around people. It was maternal child nursing, and my specialty was in adolescent pregnancy as well as the high risk neonate. And those two interested me because women and children experience such despair in attempting to get quality health care. And I identified that as part of my study. And so with that was where my interest came in looking at people who have their own personal challenges in life. Having that sort of thinking was founded, I suppose, with my family, because my parents were always volunteers and we always volunteered. In my personal life, my husband is very committed to minority business development. And he took his corporate leadership experience and has become totally involved in developing minority businesses. And so we also brought forward to our children the importance of volunteering. And so we would not celebrate any of our holidays, particularly around Christmas, without volunteering. So again, there is the whole aspect of people. Not only was the people component important, the networking is what I would say is what got me to where I am today. And because my philosophy has been to make things better for an organization or for the people, I seem to have gravitated to experiences that offered me an opportunity to make a difference. So when I went to work in a major hospital here in the city, I was leader of an infants and children's unit where the majority of our patients were very high risk. It was at a time when infants were being born with crack cocaine. We had children who were abused. We had adolescent young girls who were having babies prematurely. And we also had children who were neglected either financially or neglected parentally. And so that work is what I did. And again, it was by virtue of my change of view. My change of view occurred when I did global work in Eastern Europe. I studied on my doctorate in a Finnish folk school in Lahti, Finland, and also participated in seminars at the University of Helsinki.
Well, tell us a little bit about that experience. I want to learn more about that international flair.
So part of my adult education was to have a better understanding of critical theory
Okay.
and to look at what Paulo Freire called the pedagogy of the oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
And that was looking at society and the dynamics that society was experiencing, either through racism, sexism, or even individuals who are experiencing poverty. And so when I went to Finland, part of our study was to fully understand the critical components of adult education and heightening one's awareness of the social context within their lives, and to begin to seek a dialogue with others, particularly those who are in power,
Mm-hmm.
and to use the principles of communication and relationship building to break down barriers. And so that is what we did in Finland. Because of Finland at that time being a satellite of the Soviet Union, we were able to go and study for about 10 days in the Soviet Union. And that was a very real experience for us, because at that time, being in education, the Soviets tended to have a little bit more leeway in allowing educators to come into the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so because we were adult educators, they felt that we would not be bringing forward any, I guess, propaganda or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but we had the freedom
Mm-hmm.
to attend roundtables and have discussions on adult education principles.
Mm-hmm.
And that resulted in my doing a paper that identified and compared um, three societies: um, capitalism, which was the United States; socialism, which was what was going on in Finland; and a communist system in transition, which was the Soviet Union. And the study that I did was doing a comparison on those three on a concept of people and social change.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. What from that experience, what sounds like it was a wonderful experience. And so what lessons did you take from that experience that you have used, I should say, in your career, that you have found helpful? What was something you took from that that helped you in your career?
I believe what helped me in my career was taking time to learn about people and cultures.
Okay.
My methodology is a methodology called ethnoscience.
Mm-hmm.
And I combined my scientific education with ethnography. So I'm an ethnographer in my research, and that means I like to study people, ways of living, social structures, and the reasons that people are the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that helps from my study in Finland and the Soviet Union at that time,
Mm-hmm.
because being a critical theorist, you have to step out of who you are and look at what is going on around you and have conversations with the individuals to understand the social context that they represent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have taken that in my roles wherever I've been, and I always look at the culture, of what's driving that culture, what's the message behind behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and do assessments not only of the people, but also of the organizational dynamics and the organizational behavior and norms. And that I relate to my emphasis on the importance of people and equity and social justice.
Okay. You also said that networking was a big part for you. And, when I think about networking, can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on internal networking for someone that needs to incorporate that in their career plan?
Okay.
What are some things that they should kind of, some
Okay.
best practices? Yeah.
Certainly. I can relate some of this to my learnings from doing my dissertation.
Mm-hmm.
At the time when I was working on my dissertation, it was African American women's corporate leadership experiences, implications for human resource development. And back in the 90s, there were not that many Black females in director and above positions. And so I had the advantage of being able to take some of my independent studies that I had done, and I had network connections in the organizations where I had done my independent study,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to interview leaders. And one of the leaders was the first elected Black female of a major corporation, insurance corporation. And she was telling me that one of the things that she realized is that she had people internally that were sponsors for her or who were her advocates, and she wasn't even aware of it. And then when she became aware of it, it came about to her when she was speaking with one of her leaders, and it wasn't a direct, it wasn't her immediate supervisor. It was a sponsor that she didn't even know she had. And she was going to present to the board, and he came and coached her on how to dress, gave her a brief biographical sketch of everybody on the board. What I learned from that interview is she told me that one of the things that she noted was that internally, white men had no difficulty getting on her calendar, sitting down with her, and talking about how to grow their career. What did you do? What do I need to do? And she thought about it and she goes, what is it that I can't get, African Americans to come and speak with me as well? So she decided what she was going to do was she's going to come off the 6th floor where the executives were and went down into the bowels of the organization. And she walked around, she talked with people, and she developed a rapport with them, began to identify those who were interested, recognized that people weren't coming up because they didn't want to bother her. They had so much respect for her in her role that they didn't want her to feel as though they were being irritants to her. And I thought back to my hospital days, and I always wanted to get into the bowels of the organization, literally. And I would work the night shift, and there's a sub basement in this major hospital. And that is where the majority of the housekeepers would have their breaks. And so what happened is that my unit was always the cleanest, but it had nothing at all to do with anything but relationship building.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that's what I was doing until I had done this study. And so what I do now is that I encourage people internally to know how to network. And what I had done in my career, I went from healthcare into corporate, and I did human resource and organizational development. And my major cognate was learning and development and organizational communication.
Mm-hmm.
So I designed leadership programs as well as performance management programs that, I hate to use the word trained, because
Mm-hmm.
you train dogs, you don't,
Right.
you know,
And people, right.
you
Teach.
develop,
I like
uh,
teach.
yeah,
Use the
you
word
develop
teach.
and teach.
Yeah.
And so part of what I wanted to do was to develop leaders in their responsibilities in developing other people and their teams. And you can't do that by not walking around,
Mm-hmm.
by not understanding the needs of individuals. So what I do now is that wherever I am, I involve my team in doing a SWOT analysis, the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats of the department and of the organization, along with my doing an assessment as well. And then I look at where their interests lie. I also find out where their skills are. And then I look at taking their skills and their interests and providing them a path internally to develop their career and or to enhance the role that they're currently in.
More wisdom and insights from Dr. Valeria Stokes on the next Lead Seat podcast.